Hey, we're reading today from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. Jesus went across the Sea of Galilee. A large crowd followed him because they saw signs he was performing on the sick. Jesus went up the mountain, and there he sat down with his disciples. The Jewish feast of the Passover was near. When Jesus raised his eyes and saw that a large crowd was coming to him, he said to Philip, "Where can we buy enough food for them to eat?" He said this to test him, because he himself knew what he was about to do. Philip answered him, 200 days' wages worth of food would not be enough for each one of them to have a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, the brother of Simon Peter, said to him, "There is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. What good is it for these who are so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people recline." Now there was a great deal of grass in that place, so the men reclined, about 5,000 in number. Then Jesus took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed them to those who were reclining, and also as much fish as they wanted. When they had their fill, he said to the disciples, "Gather together the fragments left over, so that nothing be wasted." So they collected them, and filled were 12 wicker baskets with fragments from the 5 barley loaves that had been more than they could eat. Then people saw the sign that had been done, and they said, "Truly, the prophet, the one who is come into the world." Since Jesus knew that they were going to come and carry him off and to make him king, he withdrew again to the mountain alone. So, that line, Jesus knew what he was going to do. God always knows what he's going to do despite whatever obstacle we may be facing. And yet there was a young boy willing to share what he had. God knew what he was going to do. He knew the young boy was willing to share his food, and he was willing to multiply that. I've heard many a great sermon on the idea that we should come to God with everything that we have, even though it is very little, because God can do great things with it, and that surely is true. I find it also interesting that the 12 wicker baskets, I've been told that kind of represents the 12 tribes of Israel, and how there was enough to feed all of them, and then some left over, and God takes care of his chosen, and that we are all chosen. We must merely accept. So what am I going to do with this today? Well, I think it's a matter of just being grateful. Last night I came home and I was talking to my wife and was like, "Oh, the first question in my mouth is, what's for dinner?" And she told me she was coming up with this concoction of salsa and macaroni and cheese and hamburger, and I'd done it with the boys before, and to hear it explained, it doesn't necessarily sound that great, but when you have it, it's really, really good. It really hits the spot. And she also made this really awesome salad too to go with it, and whatnot, and it was a great meal. And I remember when she was explaining it to me, she had this look of doubt on her face that she thought I was just going to hate it, and I was thankful for it. I am so blessed in this time of hurdles, this season of hurdles. We just found out that here in Illinois, the lockdown has been extended for another month. But in this time of lockdown and this time of hurdles and challenges, life goes on, and we're still doing our best to live the life that we have and, love and be grateful. I'm grateful that I get to come to work. I'm grateful that I get to work with the guys I get to work with, the women too, There's some nice gals out here that work. I'm grateful that I have, 6 beautiful children and a wonderful wife. There's just so much to be thankful for. And it's funny how that when you feel pressured or under duress or things are different, it's easy to get out of your groove and not be thankful. But I think especially in those times, it's where you need to pause and take a deep breath and realize what you have and truly be thankful. Granted, I am greatly blessed, more blessed than some others, and I wonder how I can share that and share my blessings, being on lockdown and confined. It's a great question, and I try to keep my eyes open for that. But I think smiling and loving is probably the easiest thing to do and the most readily thing I can do, to show my appreciation for every person that I meet, because I truly appreciate every person I meet. It can be challenging sometimes, but I don't know. That's all I got to say about that.